Good day. The topic we are treating today is word problem on sum and differences combined with products. I already taught you what we mean by sum, which is the result you get from adding two or more numbers. What we mean by differences, which is the result you get from subtracting two or more numbers from one another. Is that you subtract smaller number from larger number to get positive difference, or you subtract larger number from smaller number to get negative difference. And we also talk about products recently, and that is what the result you get by multiplying two or more numbers together. So now we move to word problem in which you have to combine sum and differences with what? Products. So in that particular word problem, there will be sum, there will be differences and products. So you first interpret it, then you now solve the problem. So the objective of the video is to interpret and solve word problems involving sum and differences combined with products, so that by the end of the lesson you will be able to solve and interpret word problems involving sum and differences combined with products. So the topics you must have known very well before you can watch these videos are sum, differences and products of numbers. You must know how to add numbers together, differences of numbers and products of numbers, and also how to convert mixed fraction to improper fraction. This lesson will be basically on example, but some hints will be given to you. The first hint is that when they say square of a particular number, square of a number, let's say that number is a, it means a raised to power 2. It doesn't mean 2 times a. It means you multiply that number by itself 2 times, which is what? A multiplied by a. You've been given this in the previous lesson. This is also an hint, but I'm repeating it here so that you can revise it again, which says minus multiplied by minus will give plus, minus multiplied by plus will give minus, plus multiplied by minus will give minus, and plus multiplied by plus will give plus. I said when you want to multiply two numbers, you first multiply their signs and then the numbers. And if you have sign, number and variable, you multiply sign, multiply number and then the variables. You cannot multiply number and variable together. So, and if a number is written as a, it automatically means plus a. But if it is negative, they are going to show a minus sign in front of that number. So now we move to examples on this kind of problem. That is, when you have a word problem that combines sum, differences and products in a particular question. So the first question says, find the product of 5 and the positive difference between 11 and 26. The first operation you see will be the last thing you will do. Here we have to find the product of what? 5, and the second number you will multiply by 5 is what? The positive difference between 11 and 26. And you know what will happen for you to get positive difference? You subtract smaller number from what? Larger number. When they say subtract something from something, it means when it said you subtract a from b, it means b minus a. I've explained that in differences, but I'm just trying to revise with you here. The second one says we should find the difference between what? The positive difference between the square of 15. If you talk about square of a number, square of 15 means 15 square, which is what? 15 multiplied by 15. And what? Positive difference of the square of 15 and the product of minus 16 and minus 15. That's why I said the first operation you see in your statement will be the last operation you carry out. The first thing you do is to look for the square of 15, the product of minus 16 and minus 15. You look for the greater one and the smaller one, and for you to get a positive difference, you subtract the smaller one from the larger one. You can see here we have products and difference. Also here we have products and difference, but here we are going to have products and sum. So it says find the sum of what? Of 8. That's one of the numbers you find the sum, 8. The second number is the product of 64 and 3 and a half, and the third number is the product of 256 and 4 whole number 1/4. So what you do here is they said find the product of 1, 8, second one the product of 64 and 3 and a half, and the third one the product of 256 and 4 number 1/4. That is how to interpret problem. you read the questions very well for you to know what you are asked to do. Find the sum. So the first operation you see will be the last thing you carry out. These are things for that you are going to sum together. The product of 64 and 3.5 is one of the number. You get a particular value for the product. You get a particular value for the product of 256 and 4/1/4, and then you add them together and then you add them to 8. That is what the problem is talking about. The first thing you do is to interpret your problem. What is this particular statement talking about? The first one says you find the product of 5 and what? The positive difference between 11 and 26. That is how to interpret problems. So now let's move to the solution of those problems. The first one says find the product of 5 and the positive difference between 11 and 26. The first thing you do is to first find the positive difference between 11 and 56. That is part of the numbers you will carry out the operation of differences on. For you to get the positive difference of between 26 and 11, for you to get the positive difference, you subtract a smaller number from a larger number. And the smaller number here is 11, the larger number here is 26. And when you say you subtract 11 from 26, it means 26 minus 11, and that will give 15. So we now go back to the question. The question says the product of 5 and the positive difference between 26 and 11. This is what the statement of the question is. Product of 5, that is 5 multiplied by positive difference between what? 26 and 11. This is the statement of the question. This is the numerical expression of that particular question. You see, 5 multiplied by positive difference between what? 26 and 11. And we already have the value for positive difference between 26 and 11, that is 15. This automatically means 5 multiplied by 15. The first thing you do when you see a question is you interpret the question, and you make sure you interpret very well. You read the question carefully, you digest it, and then you pick out the important words, then you change it to a word problem and then solve. You change it to a numerical expression, and then you solve. So 5 multiplied by 26 minus 11 is same thing as saying 5 multiplied by 15, because 26 minus 11 will give what? 15. And 5 multiplied by 15 will give 75. So this is the conclusive statement. The product of 5 and the positive difference between 11 and 26 is what? 75. That is our final result. It's as simple as that. Now let's move to the second question. Second question says we should find the positive difference between the square of 15 and the product of minus 16 and minus 15. I told you that the first operation you see in your statement will be the last thing you carry out. Positive difference is the last thing you carry out. But the first thing what do you want to carry that? What numbers will you carry that operation upon? You first look for their result. The first one is what? Square of 15. You cannot find the positive difference of a single number. You have to find the positive difference of 2 or more numbers. So the first one is find the positive difference of square of 15. That is part of the parameters you are going to find the positive difference upon, and you are given two numbers. And what? The product of minus 16 and minus 15. So the first thing you do is to find the square of 15 and the product of minus 16 and minus 15. And what will you do? After that, you now find the positive difference. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So what is square of 15? Like I said, square of a number is what? That number multiplied by itself twice, which is what? 15 multiplied by 15. When you use your calculator or your long multiplication, you get 225. The second thing you do now is the product of minus 16 and minus 15. I told you first multiply your sign. Here, our sign is plus, and in the hints given to you, plus multiplied by plus will give plus. 15 multiplied by 15 is 225. The reason why I did not bother to multiply the sign here before is that plus multiplied by plus will give plus. Since we don't have a negative number here, we don't have to bother ourselves. But here we can see we have minus, we have minus. So the first thing you do is what? You multiply your sign. Minus multiplied by minus, if you are familiar with the int, you know that is plus, but you don't, it is not necessary for you to indicate that plus here. And when you use your long multiplication or your calculator to do 16 multiplied by 15, you get 240. Now we have the two numbers in which we are going to carry out the operation of positive difference upon. The first one is the square of 15, and the second one is the product of minus 16 and minus 15. And don't forget, whenever you hear positive difference, you subtract a smaller number from a larger number. 240 is greater than 255, so 225, sorry. So you subtract 225 from 240. So these are just things to write so that you can understand the steps I'm taking. The positive difference between the square of 15 and the product of minus 16 and minus 15. This is the interpretation of that question. Product of minus 16 and minus 15 minus what? Product minus what? Minus the square of 15, which is also what? 15 times 15. This is the statement of the question given to you. The positive difference between what? The product of minus 16 and minus 15, you know, this will give us a greater number than the square of 15. That is why it is put here. So we already know the value for this, 240 minus 225, and when you subtract it from one another, you have 15, and that is your final answer. So the positive difference between the square of 15 and the product of minus 16 and minus 15 is what? 15. That is just the answer. So now you move to the next question. We're asked to what? Find the sum of 8. The product, the sum of what? I told you that the first operation you need to be the last thing you do. The sum of 8, product of 64 and 3.5, and what? 256 and 4/1/4. You first find the product of 64 and 3.5. You find the product of 256 and 4/1/4. And then you now what? You add 8 to the answer you got from the product of 64 and 3.5, and the answer you got from the product of 256 and 4/1/4. So here, look for the parameters in which you are going to carry the sum operation upon. The first thing is the product of 64 and 3.5. You convert this to improper fraction like I thought. This is the statement. This is the numerical expression for this statement. 64, you know, you have product A multiplied by what? The second number, 3.5. You change this to improper fraction. You have 64 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 2, 2 multiplied by 3, 6, 6 plus 1, 7 over your old denominator, which is 2. So 2 here, 1, 2 here will give us what? 2 here will give us 32. Or you say 64 multiplied by 7 over 2, you get 224. That is the product of 64 and 3.5. You get an answer. The second one is the product of 256 and 4/1/4. You follow this same step. 256 multiplied by 4/1/4. You convert this to improper fraction, which will be what? 256 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 4, 16, 16 plus 1, 17 over your old denominator, which is 4. And when you do this, 256 multiplied by 17, everything divided by 4, you get 1088. Now you have the parameters to carry your sum upon. And then you now go back to the question. The question says the sum of 8, comma, the product of 64 and 3.5, comma, the product of 256 and 4/1/4. What this question is saying is that what is the sum of 8 and the product of 64 and 3.5 and the product of 256 and 4/1/4? This is the interpretation. You know, sum means addition. 8 plus what? Product of 64 and 3.5, which is 64 times 3.5, plus what? The product of 256 and 4/1/4, which is what? 64 times 256 times 4/1/4. We already have the results for this. We've solved for it the other time. So we have 8 plus what? Plus what? 224, plus, when we did this, we have 1088. Then you add them together, we have 1320. So the result of adding 8 to the product of 64 and 3.5 and then to the product of 256 and 4/1/4 is what? 1320. That is how to interpret and solve word problem. When you are given word problem, you first interpret the question. You know that the first operation you see will be the last operation you will carry out, will be the general operation that will combine all the numbers together. So I think you understood what I just taught. So these are exercises for you to do to check if you really understand what we've been talking about. Here, you have to find the sum. You know, sum will be the general operation on, or on what? 256. That is one of the number you carry out sum on. The positive difference between 3.5 and half, the second number, and the product of this. So make sure you interpret your problem very well and then you solve. So next video will be more on word problem with sample questions and solutions again. Thanks.